Hello and thank you for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakum. It's about 43 days to the conduct of the 2023 general elections, so do not hesitate to get your PVCs in readiness to vote in the elections. Today on the program, ICPC rates Education Ministry, Supreme Court, 50 other agencies as high corruption risk. And later on the show, former Aide makes damaging corruption allegations against PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar. I'll be hanging out with Olatunde Abaton, while Kasim Afegwa will join us via Zoom. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin with politics, which is the much talked about issue in Nigeria right now. The presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, APC, appears to be making inroads into the southeast in what analysts tagged as a successful outing in Enugu on Wednesday, as the ruling party took its presidential campaign to the southeast, believed to be the stronghold of the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP. Large crowd of supporters trooped out to welcome him to the cold city. In one of the videos trending in the social media, a large number of people struggled to greet or catch a glimpse of Tinubu at Enugu International Airport, where the APC chieftains like Governors Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, Dave Umahi of Ebonyi State, and others in the zone received him. Let's share the video with you.
Look at you this way. Make way, please. Make way, make way. Let's go.
To the southeast, Bola Tinubu, the perception is that maybe he will not get enough votes from the southwest. And some optimists are just saying, 25%, that if you can make up to 25%. But from what we've seen from this video and where he has been so far, he's been to Imo State. I saw the video of town hall meeting he held in Imo State. And from the looks of things, it's as if he might make major inroad, or he has made major inroad into the southeast.
Well, I think so far in the campaign, it is so clear that against all permutations, against all perceptions, established perceptions that area, they are not necessarily, they are Republicans. And when you look at since 1979, people in the southeast have always been voting a party that tends towards the PDP, MPN, and later PDP. But from what you have seen so far, and from the activities of the governors, it will appear as if it is not just all the major candidates who have an inroad, and Asiwaju will not be an exception, based on the kind of preparations. When you look at it, it just reminds me of 1979. The only president candidate that has gone to all nooks and crannies of Nigeria was Ileshifa Awolowo. I think Senator Bola Tinubu has repeated the same, because he has really penetrated all parts of Nigeria by this kind of campaign. And with the fact that we have those governors who are members of the G5, it means that their participation and their membership of that particular group is showing in the reception that has so far been given to the APC candidate. And I think that it's not going to be so easy. Nobody should just sit down somewhere and think that somebody will just get 90%. I don't think it can happen again. It will have an inroad into the Southeast. There's no doubt about that. That somebody will get 90% because you are from that zone. I think with this year's election, I think that myth is going to be broken.
Kazim, APC seems to be showing quite a kind of impressive form in the Southeast against all odds.
Well, you should expect them to show capacity, to show, some level of presence, because it's a ruling party. They have a lot of chieftains from Enugu State, governor in Imo State, Owerri. So I'm not surprised by the turnout of those who came to welcome Asiwaju into their campaign. Don't forget that Ebiano, what's his name now, Senator Timaruke Namani, is a staunch supporter of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. And if the news we are hearing about the G5 decided to go by, that will also swell, the support base of the APC in Enugu State and by extension, some of the other southeastern states. So I wasn't surprised at all to see that kind of commitment.
Do you see him getting the necessary 25% or above that in the Southeast?
He's going to get more than 25%. Why are you cheapening him? He's going to get more than 25%. Don't forget that Enugu is a hotbed of all manners of tribe, all manners of persons from across the country. It is not predominantly a state for the owners, for the Igbos. Even those Igbos who are there, they are strong chieftains of the APC, and I think they will have a good showing. He's going to score more than 25% by my estimation.
Ultimately, when we look at the political parties and the rally so far, it's not going to be wrong to say it's just 3 political parties that have been able to show that have been able to be strong. I've not seen.
I think this election is just going to separate the men from the boys. The men, those people who are actually organized, who have the capacity to mobilize Nigerians across the board, across all the 6 geopolitical.
So I've seen the People's Democratic Party, the All Progressive Congress, and
the Labour Party. So, except those 3 parties, there's no way NMPP can make an inroad into either the Southwest or the Southeast by the level of their preparation and probably acceptance among the people. Because people are saying that it's social, but it's very, very important. When you don't have people who will mobilize for you at the grassroots, when your party is not popular, when those people are driving the machine, driving the propaganda machinery, driving the followership of the party, when they are not present, how can people know that a party is existing? Yes, people may accuse the media of narrowing. Yes, the NNPC, they are strong, but I don't see them having any influence beyond the Northwest. That is Kano, probably little presence Jigawa, maybe relatively Katsina, and a little bit of Kaduna. I can't even see them making 25% in Kaduna.
Kazim, when we talk about party structure, now a lot of people will say it has gone beyond having party structures across the country, that the people will be the one to vote in this election, and they will just tell you that the significance of the structure we used to have on ground will be meaningless at the end of the day in 2023. I want you to tell us the impact of these formidable parties and those parties that are just coming, but they have the numbers.
Well, the point is this: I think people are mistaken. When you say structure, they are mistaking the entire, discourse. Let me tell you about structure now. If you are a party, you are expected to feature or feed candidates in all the positions of categories of election. President, vice president, governor, deputy governor, House of Rep, Senate, House of Assembly. So if you don't have persons representing you in these categories of elections in the respective constituencies, people will not be there on that day to do your billing. And at any rate, if you have candidates, when the main candidate, the presidential candidate, is even not campaigning in those areas, Those candidates who are using the party structure and who are carrying the party's flag at House of Assembly level, at the House of Rep and Senate level, will be using the presidential candidate to also campaign. So you see multiple campaigns going on and on and on. But in a situation where you don't have candidates, who are you going to run to in those constituencies? So this is why I quarrel with those who think that persons are the structure and not necessarily the structure of the party. I think they are getting it wrong. Because at any rate, once a candidate is running an election, you definitely know that he will need the support of those at the top, the presidential candidate. He will need the support of the governors. He will need the support of other categories. But where they don't exist, it becomes a problem. Like the Labour Party, for example, in Kano State, they don't have 40% candidates in virtually all the positions. Kano State has 44 local governments, and you can't see Labour Party being represented in those areas in the House of Assembly. So it's going to be a problem campaigning for Peter Obi. Except Peter Obi goes there to campaign, he will show.
Ultimately, when you look at, we have 18 candidates.
Yes, 18 presidential candidates.
Presidential candidates, but where are the rest?
Well, I think, like I said, I think, like Kazim said, it's a question of feasibility and capacity to mobilize all sorts of people that are going to support you. Because when you don't have people at the required places, there's no way they can mobilize for you. On the day of the presidential election, there are 3 elections: the president, the Senate, and the House of Rep. Each and every one of these people mobilize. Especially the
I know Kola Abiola is contesting on the PRP. I know former AMSA, Mustafa, former National Security Advisor.
He has withdrawn.
Okay.
He has collapsed.
I know of the
social support of
yes, I know of the Social Democratic Party. Yes,
one has man from the Southwest, one professor from the Southwest. But the thing is that I think they are not just feasible enough.
I know of Omoyele
Sowore
too is of the African Democratic Congress.
Because this thing is about mobilization. When there is no grassroots mobilization, people cannot be enlightened. It is not about those people who have the opportunity of being in the media. No? It's about people knowing who they want to vote for. Look, like where I live in the past probably 12 years, we had somebody who is in the House of Assembly. I don't know his name. I don't know the name of the of the person in the House of Rep. I only know the name of the senator. And he has not visited that place in the last 4 years. So how can these people come around and tell me to come and campaign or vote for them? So the thing now is that if a party has no structure on the ground, when you don't have structure on the ground, when you don't have people following you, you cannot have structure. And when those structures are not there, they cannot mobilize for you. So it is very, very important. It is at this time that people will know whether structure is important or not. It is very, very important. You cannot remove it from mobilization of the people. Because you cannot mobilize, people cannot come out. They will not even know your candidate. So how do you get there? It's a very important question. So those parties that are not so feasible enough, either because they fail to do their work or their parties failed to have enough representation at all levels of governance for people to know them, for people to know that there's an option, for people to know that there's an alternative to a particular government. Most of the states in Nigeria today, if the governors return, it is because the opposition, they are not doing their work well. They are not being feasible enough. Immediately after the election, some people will take the next flight ticket and go out of Nigeria. It is when election is coming back, 3 months to the election, they will surface again. So how do you want people to queue behind you? How do you want people to know your political party? So a political party, the next election starts on the day the first election takes place. The moment you end that election, you start preparing for 4 years. But in Nigeria today, after the election, people just go away. So how can they be feasible? They cannot.
All right,
they cannot be feasible.
Moving on now, fighting corruption has been a Herculean task for us as a country. Fact emerging from the agencies at the forefront of the fight against graft points to the difficulties involved. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has called the Ministry of Finance, Education, Power and Education low in its latest Ethics and Transparency Index reports. The breakdown of the report shows that 52 agencies scored 0 in the ranking and were marked as high corruption risk by the Commission. Prominent among them is the Federal Ministry of Education, the Supreme Courts, the Court of Appeal, the National Judicial Institute, NJC, the Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission, National Bureau for Statistics, NBS, and the National Pension Commission. Gentlemen, there's fire on the mountain. Kazim, what's the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal doing on that list?
What list? You know the list of agencies that are corrupt?
Yes.
Well, I think you and I know that in Nigeria, you know, we're quite familiar with agencies that are corrupt, whether they are listed or not. But having the strong political will, the capacity, and the resilience to insist that the right things must be done, that just
Today, the names, I'm looking at this ministry, even the Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission.
Well, I think, in the report they said that 360 MDAs, ministry and departments, were sent the questionnaire and questions that are being asked, that the least official, either in the ministry, it's unfortunate that we mentioned judiciary, because the...
Okay, let's go back to Kazim. We're talking about the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal.
Yes. You see, there is slow administration of justice in Nigeria. When you interrogate judges, you should speak to judges who are your friends, they will tell you that the volume of work at their disposal is quite high. And so the tendency for you to commence and conclude issues of anti-corruption cases that are peculiar in their own very way to anti-corruption becomes, takes a longer time for you to dispensably to handle cases of anti-corruption. The idea was mooted some time ago, but since this administration came on board, it has been rested. I would love to see a situation where there are special courts. If you look at countries that have, contended with anti-corruption fights, you will discover that they set up special courts. A good example is the Singaporean experience. Those who take courses in anti-corruption, they will tell you that the Singaporean experience is a best bet. And even in Africa here, what we need to do as a country is for you to set up special anti-corruption courts that will be vested with the responsibility of handling those cases in record time. But when you say somebody is corrupt or alleged to be corrupt, and you are spending 2, 3, 4 years to prosecute one case, the steam will peter out, and even the interest to sustain such a fight will become minimal. So for me, it's not just about Supreme Court, it's not about Appeal Court. There are quite a number of other places. A lot of agencies are corrupt. We know this, we see this. But our sense of communalism as a country, as Africans, it's difficult for you to look at your friend in the face and say you want to jail him or her, except you have that strong political will and you are ready to do just the needful or the rightful thing, in interest of the country. But does the country protect you if in the final analysis you are able to do certain things within the ambits of the law? The country does not protect. You retire, you don't get your pension, you don't get your gratuity. So the welfare system is almost non-existent. So it's a problem. When you retire, what is your place in the society? So there are a lot of things that must be done in fighting anti-corruption. What we are doing presently is just mere papering.
Today, I'm worried. I was placing the emphasis on the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal. Now, that body that is in charge of to oversight the courts, the judges, and everybody. NJC, Nigeria Judicial Institute.
Well, we have to look at the fact that it is, I think, it's systemic and institutional corruption. The old judiciary, because those people who are there got there by a particular process. And so far, like he said, the kind of setup we have in Nigeria, the window of justice is very, very slow, grind so slow, to the fact that except you have what it takes, you cannot get justice in Nigeria. If it is difficult for a poor man or for even an influential person to get justice in Nigeria, you can now imagine how it will be so easy for people who are poor to get justice in this country. So the window of justice in Nigeria just grinds so slow that except we do something about the institution and the system. We talk about strong institutions. When there are no strong institutions like the National Judicial Council, if the NJC is weak, what do you expect the Supreme Court to do? What do you expect the Court of Appeal to do? I think, like he said, besides setting up special courts, I think the judiciary have to be on a particular level in which their money is charged directly from the consolidated fund so that they can approach their priorities well and deliver justice well. In a situation whereby the release of funds from the Office of the Accountant General is dependent on the AG, which means if there's a case involving the AG, Accountant General of the Federation, or any of the Permanent Secretary Minister of Justice, the case will be stalled because it will not release money. So I think this thing is institutional and we have to do something about it. We have to go to the fundamentals of the Nigerian nation and look at, when you look at education, the same thing. A lot of agencies under the Ministry of Education. JAM is under, as big as it is, it's under the Ministry of Education. National University Commission, as big as it is under the Ministry of Education. So when you look at those institutions, except they are powerful enough, they cannot do what is right. And when they cannot do what is right, you cannot expect them to open their books. Like he said, if you retire as a High Court judge, I know it is only Lagos State that when you retire as a High Court judge, you have something for yourself. Go and look at other states. When they bring a matter before you, probably about 500 million, and you know that you have no house to retire to, how will the person get justice? You cannot get justice because the system is flawed.
All right. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this time out.
My brother, my sister, do you know that winning an election is not only about getting the majority vote? For that your candidate to be declared winner of the election, he or she must secure 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all states plus the FCT to be president, and 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all local governments of a state to be governor. This is constitutional, and every presidential candidate has had to pass this threshold. Even governors have had to make this mark to get elected in their states. We live in one country with different languages, religions, and ethnic groups. This is why it is not enough to have only northern votes, or southern votes, or eastern votes, or western votes. The only way to get elected as president or governor is by gaining enough support across the country and states. Let us make sure that we know now so that we don't cause an issue tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
We are also driving a renewed focus on investor discipline. 5 electricity distribution companies that were underperforming and causing 80% of the market collection shortfall were restructured. As you may remember, we have restructured one earlier in December last year, the Abuja disco. That makes them 6. To avoid moral hazard, the Bureau of Public Enterprise, working with lenders under the supervision of CBN, successfully took over the failing discourse, and we are working to transition them to capable investors.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
It's a new dawn for Nigeria. Oh, better days are coming. Better days that gives us hope and strength.
It's a new dawn in Nigeria. The firmament portents a bright future as the people of Nigeria move to vote a man whom they have come to trust. That man is Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. Vote Bola Tinubu as president of Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC.
Bring the smiles back to all Nigeria.
Thank you for staying with us. If you are just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout, and we're reaching you live from our headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. And I still have Mr. Kazeem Afegwa and Tunde Abaton with me. And that means government agencies, almost all, something must be done about corruption. Kazeem, corruption in government agencies. If you are listing 52, that's called zero in the ranking.
Out of 360.
Out of 360.
We have more than 350 government agencies. Nigerian government agencies are 612. And predominantly, there are some of them that are not so pronounced. We don't get to hear them, but they enjoy budgets. Every year, budgets are being presented to the National Assembly. But the point is, which I raised earlier, is that if you must fight corruption head on, you must be able to set standards. The institutions that are fighting corruption must be able to set standards. And what do I mean? You cannot be accusing agencies of lethargy when you are committing the same lethargic offense. By extension, I don't know the budget of EFCC year in, year out. You don't get to see their audited statement of account, EFCC. You don't get to see ICPC audited statement of account. They should live as example for other agencies so that when you are taking them to task, they will know exactly what you are talking about. Look at the Accountant General that was alleged to have misappropriated 117 billion, which rose to over 200 billion. As we speak, he's on bail and he's resting in his house. How do you want the younger elements in the society to react to cases of people who are being jailed for 2 naira, 2 million naira, 5 million naira, and such categories of money? When people who are stealing billions are granted bail, and oftentimes they enter into plea bargain, and you allow them to walk away. I think as a country, we must adopt the Singaporean model. I keep saying this, because in Singapore, the corruption was very rotten. The system was rotten from the police, army, everybody. But it took the resilience and strong political will of the people to be able to build institutions that were used to checkmate incidences of this. And they started by frying the big fishes. You fry the big fishes when you catch big teeth, you fry them. Botswana in Africa here is a lovely country with good profile when it comes to anti-corruption. But over here in Nigeria, you have EFCC, you have ICPC, you have NFIU, and all of that. If you look at the operations in all these places, my brother, it is rub my back and rub your back. That's the truth. When people place calls, they want to call somebody, oh, please release this one, release this one. Why will an accountant general that misappropriated 170 billion, for example, be set free on bail? Why? So these are the issues. It's not about agencies. Individuals in those agencies and all of that. So if you want to build an institutional framework for proper accountability, prudent management of resources, you must be able to set rules and regulations that will not be bendable to the whims and caprices of certain individuals who see themselves as primus inter pares in the society. We must use the rule of law to level the ground for all participants, all partakers in the collective patrimony of Nigeria, so that when certain infractions are seen or considered to have been done, then we can use that law. But over here, that should not be. The law should be a leveler for everybody. The law should be a leveler. But when you don't apply the law, it becomes a problem.
Okay, we have Boniface calling us from Jos. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Uncle.
Good evening.
My regard to you people.
Go ahead, please.
Uncle, what I want to actually say is a message to their former years. Hello?
Go ahead.
It's a message to your former discussion when you talk about Ashwaju Ahmed Tinubu going to Enugu State. I am very, very happy that Ashwaju Ahmed Tinubu went to Enugu State. We watched the program live, and we are very, very, and that is very welcome. I'm from Enugu State. So when you are talking that the crowd that is there, that crowd are not Igbos. I'm not against Ashwaju Ahmed Tinubu. Because I watched it live from beginning to the end. When Igbo man say Igbo Kwenu, he say hey, not hey. So when we are hearing people say hey, you know.
Okay, Boniface talking about the rally in Enugu. Let me tell you about one. Let me take you back here and talking about ICPC, EFCC. So far, the way they've combated corruption, and this government, you know, that's one of the main team and used to use in campaigning to fight corruption. So how would you assess this?
Well, I think whether we like it or not, in the last 5 years or so, the SCPC and EFCC, they have really made a mark. But the problem we have in Nigeria is that, like I said the other time, the will of justice grants so slow. No special law has been made, or no special court has been created to ensure that cases of corruption, high cases of corruption. Only 2 weeks ago, the EFCC said they put some houses for auction in all parts of Nigeria. So I think these are a point of, because 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you never heard of this thing. In fact, this case will not be mentioned again. So I think it's a starting point, whether we like it or the ICPC too, at least in the manner of, in fact, there was a time I attended a conference about 2 years ago when a member of the House of Rep or Senate, he secured constituency fund. He built an event center. At the end of the day, when his tenure expired, he converted it to himself. ICPC got it back from him. They got it back from him. So I think we just have to start. We just have to encourage them to keep on doing it. But the most important thing, like I said, there's so far no special court is created to expedite action on trying people for corrupt cases. It makes it so difficult. Like I said now, when somebody steals 100,000 naira, they will dispense with the case before you know it. But when somebody has 1 billion, 10 billion, he has enough money to hire lawyers who will do a lot of inter-country injunction, a lot of cases they will bring up. They have enough money to stall the court proceedings. So I think it is about having a very good system in place, institution in place that will do this thing. Whether we like it or not, SCPC or EFCC, at least they have done something. They have introduced something to think that you cannot just do anything and go away with it and get a slap in the wrist judgment. But let us know that somebody is watching at any point in time.
All right. Now, deep-rooted connivance in high places and impunity are some of the factors making corruption difficult to tackle in Nigeria. A former aide to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, for the 2023 elections, Atiku Abubakar, when he was the vice president from 1997, has revealed some of the reasons why corruption cannot be pinned on him in a damaging corruption allegation against Atiku. The former aide, Michael Achimugu, went to court to establish that the former vice president is allegedly corrupt. In the affidavit, he swore to before the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, on the 2nd of December 2022, Achimugu said there was an allegation of corruption against Atiku regarding a 100 million naira bribe given to him by former governor of Plateau State, Joshua Dariye. The court action was preceded by a video in which Achimugu played back an alleged telephone conversation Atiku had with him when he requested to know how to respond to an issue of corruption allegation leveled against him when he was the vice president. Let's share part of the video with you.
On the 13th of June 2018, there were serious corruption allegations flying all over social media about 100 million naira bribe that had been given to Atiku Abubakar by the then Plateau State Governor Joshua Dariye. By the direct personal admission of the governor, he had given 100 million naira to Atiku. For this reason, the governor was found guilty and was sentenced to jail time. I needed to know what the truth about the allegation was before proceeding to plan a defense strategy. And so I reached out to my then principal, Atiku Abubakar, via email, asking him, the details of the issue and how to proceed. And so he had told me that in his reply that, that money had been paid into an SPV. I didn't know what an SPV was, so I asked him. And so he gave a brief description, but since it was obvious I wasn't quite, I didn't have clarity, he put a call through to me on that same day. On my blog, you'd find the phone number that he had used to call me on that day, and the number I was also using by which I had received that call that day. And in his call, in our conversation, he admitted to having advised his then boss, President Olusegun Obasanjo, against what he called open corruption, stating that he practiced corruption by stealth in further strategy meetings, that through those SPVs he, Atiku Abubakar, had set up. Don't forget that he was in charge of the economy, and every monetary transactions had to pass through him, and they had used those SPVs, to fleece Nigerians, using those monies for private businesses, to settle their friends and political issues as well. That particular conversation gave me a little insight into the truth. It also opened my mind to the knowledge that the reason he's always been confident in defending himself, in allegations of SPV by telling Nigerians, show me evidence if you have any against me, is because SPVs, those companies he had set up by himself, was always confident about corruption allegations. But it also forced me to begin to investigate deeper, the man that I was serving at the time.
Yes, Kazim, let me start from you. You worked with the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, spoke on his behalf, and what is the story about?
Well, before I react to this, let me tell you, in simple terms, that corruption is not just mismanagement of naira and kobo, or financial gratification, or financial profligacy, and all of that. It's also about abuse of process. That is why the global definition of corruption is monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. That's the definition of corruption globally. So it is not just when you monopolize your position to impugn on your discretionary powers, then you will be found wanting because there will be a lack of accountability. And this is exactly what has happened in the video you have just shown us. Because Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, allegedly by Mike Achimugu, was set up a special purpose vehicle for which certain monies will be paid into for the running of the party and other activities. He named Anjuba, he named Fashawe, they are still living. And the third person that he was trying to name would be Waziri Mohammed, who died in the Bellevue air crash in Lagos. So the point is, for a sane society, by now as we speak, if you were to apply rule of law, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar should be cool enough with the relevant security agencies to provide further insight into the claims on the voice note that is in circulation, to ascertain the authenticity, and once it is ascertained, then you take up issues with him. But just like what I said earlier, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is even contesting, campaigning to be you and I president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and commander-in-chief of armed forces. If a man with this kind of background, with the kind of allegations that are flying all over the place, that are so real and authentic by virtue of what Mike Achimugu has put out, even in his affidavit and his videos, then you and I are in trouble. So I'm expecting
Kazim, just 4 years ago, you were his mouthpiece. You were his spokesperson. What's happening?
Listen, yes.
You are not calling for his prosecution?
No, there's nothing happening. My position is very clear. In 2018, I wasn't an Atiku Abubakar supporter. I was a member of the PDP. I supported Tambuwal for president, and in Port Harcourt, we lost out. When the party was setting up its campaign structure, they included some of us as spokesmen of the Presidential Campaign Council of the PDP. I wasn't, it was Segun Sowunmi who was Atiku. I never supported it on the basis of an individual, but on the basis that he was the candidate of the party, and by extension, I needed to showcase the party. But we didn't have information that.
Oh, Tony Abato, while we were trying to reconnect with Kazim Afegwa, it seemed a lot of things gone wrong in the last 4 years, and Kazim Afegwa is now calling for the prosecution of Atiku Abubakar.
Well, I think there is more to it than meets the eye. In as much as I believe that as a Nigerian, anybody is free to associate or to take a particular position on any particular issue. But the fact remains that by what Ashimugu has said now, if Nigeria were to be a sane society, a lot of Nigerians parading the street are not supposed to walk freely on the street.
Ashimugu, that's not the court of law.
What I'm saying is that it has not been tried. What we are saying is that some people are higher than others in Nigeria. If it is an ordinary Nigerian, the person, based on an allegation, when the policeman comes to your house, you say, until you get to the station, we are not going to say anything about you. But in this case, you know, events of the last 5 years have shown that like, when somebody steals 107 billion naira as a Accountant General, and you give him a slap in the wrist bail condition, and you ask him to go home, which means that somebody who has the capacity to steal more than that will steal more than that. Talk less of somebody who has been in office as Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for 8 years. I think there is a lot of things wrong with Nigeria. And it is wrong because there are no good institutions in place, naturally. What is a special purpose vehicle? In what place is it in the Nigerian law or in the way the government is administered? Which means signatories to that particular account, are they government officials? Are they politicians? If they are politicians, what role are they playing in government? If they are government officials, what is their enabling power? So I think a lot of things is swept under the ground in Nigeria because our political leaders or leaders at any point in time, they lack the courage to use the law and to be sincere about what they are doing. Because it's all about sincerity. If today, after probably 12 years out of power, Nigerians are yet to be told how we spent our $16 billion on electricity. Nobody has come out to give a convincing explanation. So which means a lot of water has passed under the ground.
All right. We'll take this break. When we come back, we conclude on this matter.
Our country one better. Nigeria one better. Who go do one for us?
Yeah, so people of Nigeria, they jolly for the better than one shell for we country. So as they ready to vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as the next president of Nigeria, I ain't get the experience where you go fit use take make our country better. People of Nigeria, but this and many other better things when in don't bunklize, it good make we all vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu for president of Nigeria. Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC.
You we need oh.
There's also the development of electrode material for supercapacitor energy storage for application in satellite power system in support of scientific advancement and satellite development. That's by NASA. Production of vehicle speed limiter, which uses global positioning system for speed determination. Vehicle record and movement data are logged in 4 gigabyte to 16 gigabyte memory. And this is what CHESCO has been able to do in collaboration with the Federal Road Safety Corps.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
So, thank you for staying with us. Kazim, Let me go back to you. What is the implication of this allegation now? Because this young man, Achimugu, is saying that he's ready to release more.
Well, I want him to release more. Just like I was saying before, there was a break in transmission. We didn't get to know a lot of these details when we were campaigning in 2019 for the PDP. And it was one of the reasons that I had to back out this time around, that I only want to support an Atiku presidency after a Buhari presidency. Well, you see, the point is, I was raising, there are laws in Nigeria for the big men, there are laws for the poor men. Because if the law is supposed to be the common arbiter for all persons to provide a level playing field, the likes of Atiku today should be facing serious interrogation in the hands of the security agencies. But everybody is pretending that nothing is wrong. And yet you want to tell me that you want to fight corruption. You see, this is why I told you that for this purpose, our anti-corruption fight is still very fraught with problems. For you to become chairman of EFCC, you have to lobby. For you to become chairman of ICPC, you have to lobby. For you to become staff of these places, you'll be seeing different notes from senators, House of Rep members, from big men and all that. The moment you put processes of anti-corruption under this kind of fraudulent process, in a manner that you cannot use merit to determine who qualifies to head what, then you are only, spraying deodorant on in the entire process. So I want the relevant agencies, ICPC, EFCC, NFIU, the DSS, they should be bold enough to bring Atiku to book. They should interrogate him. Invite this young man, Mike Achimugu, to speak to those issues. These are serious issues that have to do with our resources as a nation, our collective patrimony. And one individual cannot be larger than the law. And by curious arrangement, if by accident he becomes president, he's going to be presiding over our collective patrimony. How do you define that? How do you move the country forward? The other guys, Abatan was talking about $16 billion on electricity and no result, and nobody is being queried. And even those who played the pivotal role during that era are the ones who are endorsing candidates today and want us to follow their route. So, as a country fighting corruption, I think we are still just at the formative stage, if you ask me, because I haven't seen structure, the institutional structure that will lead to a functional system where rule of law applies without discrimination.
In all this, there should be a kind of minimum standard.
Yes.
If you are to be qualified to be candidate of a political party. I believe INEC should have done this kind of allegation, any of this. I think basically maybe because those people who wrote the Electoral Act, or those who passed the Electoral Act 2020 are part of the problem. The National Assembly, that anybody can contest election. Even when you have killed your wife the first day, you will stand the election. I think upon all, this is a challenge for both ICPC and the EFCC to step in. Yes, the man made an affidavit in a regular court of law. ICPC and EFCC should not wait necessarily on petition before they act, because they will say if it is petition, yes, you can back up the petition, you will investigate the petition, and when you see that somebody is culpable, I think at this particular point in time, for us to put Nigeria on the right pedestal, I think EFCC and ICPC should do something about this allegation. Kazim, what's your last take on this?
Well, my last take is very simple. We are moving towards 2023 election, February the 21st for the presidential election and the National Assembly. I'm calling on Nigerians to please look inwards and ensure that they are able to vote for the candidate of my choice by virtue of track record, vision, capacity to take certain decisions, capacity to build elite consensus that will move the country forward. In person of Alhaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he has the capacity to look into people's faces and take very hard decisions. And he's one man who has seen it all. So he's not coming to acquire wealth. He's not coming to make fresh name. He's been around our democratic circle and democratic struggle. So I'm calling on Nigerians to please, show support for his aspiration. And for the young man, Mike Achimogo, I want to plead with him that he should please unveil the right story so that we can confidently conclude on the status of the candidate of the PDP. Of course, we have said it before now that there are so many things that are wrong with the PDP. Yes. But at least this one has just given us a lead, which we can follow to logical conclusion.
Journalist, thank you. And Tunde Abaton, thank you for your interventions today. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. And don't forget to join us this Sunday by 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozuba. Bye for now.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
In the month of January 2023, the 4th of January is dedicated to World Braille Day to celebrate the inventor Louis Braille. On 6th January, it will be 2 years when U.S. Capitol was attacked by the then President Donald Trump supporters. On 8th January 2020, Ukraine International Airline Flight 752 was shut down shortly after takeoff. 15th January is the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which marks the end of the Civil War in 1970. 24th January is International Education Day. On 27th January, it will be 21 years after the Ikeja cantonment blast occurred. 29th January is World Leprosy Day, observed to create awareness on the disease. Stay tuned to TVC News as we serve you with reports and analyses on these notable events.
Genuine business people desirous of success in today's environment ignore the taxman only at their own peril.
Under the oversight of this board, the FIRS will continue its transformation into a premier revenue collecting agency.
For up-to-date and accurate information on your obligations, duties and rights under the various tax laws in Nigeria, watch Tax Matters on TVC News Thursday, 6:30 p.m. to 7 p.m.
The real estate sector in Nigeria is growing at a pace that is almost unbelievable. I'm on a journey to unravel the real estate sector in these parts and explore how the private sector is filling the housing deficit gap. To help you understand how it works, the players, the policies, the rules, but more importantly, how it serves as a veritable investment mechanism. Get a deeper understanding of real estate business from the eyes and experiences of the major players and learn how to make the most of it. Real Transformers, Exploring Tributat, starts October 1st, 3:30 p.m. every Saturday on TVC News.
In addition to its core functions, the Central Bank of Nigeria has over the years performed some major developmental roles focused on all the key sectors of the economy, including financial, agricultural, and industrial sectors.
Beyond our intervention programs, we are also working to encourage banks and financial institutions to lend from their balance sheets in order to support the growth of critical sectors of the economy, such as agri, MSMEs, and the real estate sector.
Join me, Oluyemisi Dada, as I bring to you weekly news highlights, exclusive stories, in-depth analysis of the monetary and economic policies and intervention initiatives of the Apex Bank. From the CBN, going for growth.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome to TVC News at 6. Former Director General of the Peter Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Council, Doyin Okukwe, has been released after he was arrested by the Department of State Services. The Labour Party chieftain was intercepted this morning by the DSS at Terminal 1 of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos at the instance of the EFCC while waiting to board a London-bound aircraft at the international wing of the airport in Lagos. While sharing the details of the tweet, quote, "I was arrested and detained at the MMIA Lagos this morning, 12th of January, on my way to the UK for many years after my passport had been withheld by the FHC Abuja. I just left the EFCC office where senior officers in Lagos and Abuja apologized to me for the error." End of quote. The EFCC said it acted on the July 2016 watch list request when they made the arrest. In Zamfara State, a retired Colonel, Rabiu Yandoto, who gained freedom alongside his children after 9 days in captivity, has described his abduction as blessing in disguise. He said he had the opportunity to discuss critical issues with some notorious bandit leaders, including those on the wanted list of the Nigerian security agencies. Retired Colonel Yandoto and his children were on the 1st of January along Gusau Safe Road abducted. The former Zamfara Road Traffic Agency boss confirmed that ransom was paid for his release.
All these unwanted bandits, especially the ones that are listed by the Chief of Defense Staff, had a meeting with me in the bush. We discussed so many issues. I was not beaten. 2 of my children and the 2 other people that were together, they feed us very well. They give me opportunity to talk. So there is so many things and so many messages. I think why they did not take a drastic or a very bad action against me was because they have a lot of messages which they want to pass to the country.
To better the lives of families of fallen military personnel beyond the minimal recognition they get during the annual Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration. This is amid the hue and cry by military veterans. Sifon Essien has details.
She's blocking it.
It's a mixed bag for Maria Emmanuel 10 years after she lost her husband in the line of duty.
Then I tried complaining, I carried.
The mother of 3 got some support to cater for her children's education, including her husband's death benefits.
The benefit is really not that visible. So I can say that one, governments have tried in a little proportion. Why do I say that? At least I know that Navy, they gave my children scholarship after the demise of my husband. I would like to start with that so that it doesn't look as if they are doing nothing.
But the military widow is dissatisfied that the husband's supreme sacrifice, just as other fallen heroes, is not given as much recognition as he should beyond the Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
He served with all his heart, hoping that, and the government promised, there are certain benefits in a way that when he's not there, those things are supposed, government knows, the society knows that these things are supposed to ease the pain of suffering for these families. And it's not there. How do you expect them to cope? So they've tried in one way, and in other ways they've failed.
The federal government is implementing reforms to the payment of military pensions and gratuities as a means of improving the welfare of military veterans and the next of kin of their fallen colleagues.
Mr. President, since 2015, has never delayed for 1 day payment of their pensions. 1, those who are retired. 2, those who are retiring. Mr. President has never delayed payments of their retirement allowances on time. This I can say. 3, the group life assurance. Those who are even serving, any military personnel that dies while in service, not necessarily in active service, even if you die of ill health, the government has put aside a certain amount of money to pay to your next of kin. When a soldier dies today, whether a soldier or officer dies today, within the next couple of days, as a matter of fact, his insurance benefit should be paid to his family.
From electronic verification of pensioners to a 25% increment in the arrears based on the minimum wage to eligible military retirees.
Once there's increment in the emolument of serving workers, which includes myself, it also automatically reflects on the pensions. And that's exactly what the military pension board is doing. They are only implementing what government asks them to do. Therefore, if there's any, it also reflects on the military pension board. And those funds will also be released from Ministry of Finance to the military pension board.
After months of agitation by military veterans, the Military Pensions Board began the payment of security debarment allowance on Thursday, January the 5th, to eligible military retirees and the next of kin of deceased military personnel. The allowance is meant to discourage military veterans from using the skills they acquired while in service against the government.
I think there's no veteran that is happy with the payment. I have not had one single veteran that has said he's happy with what he has received or what his colleagues are receiving. The present payment should be done with the current basic salary of the current personnel, because we don't have 2 armed forces in Nigeria. We have only 1 armed forces. So what is good what is good for the present ones, serving personnel, is equally good for the retired ones.
This opens a new dimension to the struggle for welfare by the veterans, and it's unclear if or when this will be resolved. Sifon ACM, TVC News, Abuja.
And military authorities say they will investigate reports of reprisal attacks by bandits loyal to Dan Karami, who narrowly escaped being killed by airstrike that successfully took out his fighters. Reports indicate that a Begu, a local bandit, is believed to be behind the reprisal attack on civilians in Yanwarandaji, a village in Safi local council area of Zamfara State. At a news conference, Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Musa Dan Madami, said the investigation will determine if the attack actually happened.
Yeah, as of now, we have not got any information that there was any reprisal attack. You are all agree with me that it is stupid. It was the military that carried out airstrike against you. Instead of going to go and attack innocent civilians, why don't you come for us? But I don't think we have had any large-scale this thing. I'm sure it's just their normal criminal activities they've been going about to do, because a lot of his fighters, foot soldiers, were actually taken out during that airstrike.
In Ondo State, the state government has relaxed the 24-hour curfew earlier imposed on Ikare Akoko headquarters of Akoko Northeast local government area, as the state government threatens to banish any traditional ruler who instigate violence. Commissioner for Information and Orientation, Bamidele Ademola Olateju, who briefed journalists after the State Executive Council meeting, says the government has made further decision to relax the curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
The crisis in Buhari has resulted in stringent measures being taken by government. But in like manner, the curfew has been relaxed a little bit. As a result, that no one should parade himself as the Olokoja or Fokoja, either the one installed by the Olukare or the Owale. All minor chiefs installed by the Olokojas should stop parading themselves as chiefs henceforth.
Do stay with us here on TVC News at 6. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more stories.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
In the month of January 2023, the 4th of January is dedicated to World Braille Day to celebrate the inventor Louis Braille. On 6th January, it will be 2 years when U.S. Capitol was attacked by the then President Donald Trump supporters. On 8th January 2020, Ukraine International Airline Flight 752 was shut down shortly after takeoff. 15th January is the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which marks the end of the Civil War in 1970. 24th January is International Education Day. On 27th January, it will be 21 years after the Ikeja cantonment blast occurred. 29th January is World Leprosy Day, observed to create awareness on the disease. Stay tuned to TVC News as we serve you with reports and analyses.
Now, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, has asked Nigerians to stay back in the country to build it to the highest standard. Asiwaju Tinubu gave the advice during the party's presidential rally in Enugu State. Ola Wakon takes a look at his campaign promises and advocacy of politics without bitterness, also being demonstrated by the state government.
APC presidential candidate swarmed by thousands of supporters on his campaign visit to Enugu. He got a massive reception right on Ibiam International Airport. Many would have expected a low turnout given the state being governed by the PDP, but Asiwaju Tinubu's acceptance was overwhelming. More so, shocked many political pundits. The crowd of supporters is not only an indication of the love the people of Southeast have for the former governor of Lagos, but his network across Nigeria. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu spoke passionately about the need for Nigerians to believe in themselves, stay back to develop the assets of the country.
People running away to Canada, to Britain, we've been there. We've seen them all.
He promised the people of Southeast a government that will make them self-reliant through the enhancement of technology and innovation for the development of the region.
People, Nigeria, wake up, Africa. Let's use what we are. Let's turn our charcoal to money. Let's turn our gas to money. I'm a realistic man. Pragmatic, authentic, a thinker, a doer, a blessed man, a brilliant man.
The former governor of Lagos believes Nigeria is blessed and the people should vote for the All Progressives Congress to bring the greatness of the country to reality. At the end of the rally, the governor of Enugu, a PDP-governed state, received the APC presidential candidate at the government house, where they both had a closed-door meeting. This is a demonstration of politics without bitterness, which Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has been an advocate. Ola Awakon, TVC News, Enugu.
And in Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde says he will consolidate on the achievements he has made in the state so far if re-elected. The governor, who said this while addressing party members in Ogbomoso, noted they will take the state from poverty to prosperity under the Omitotun 2.0 mantra. Governor Makinde promised to ensure that Lautech is solely owned by Oyo State, and his administration has achieved that. He explained how government's infrastructure development drive has touched the town with the rehabilitation of major roads that link the town.
We did it. We promised the Ogbomoso land will be integrated into the wider economy of your state. And on a land link Ogbomoso, see is saying is almost done.
Ahead, the 2023 general election, an Islamic group known as Concerned Yoruba Muslim Scholars in Nigeria has advised Muslim faithful to participate in the next month's general election as it's not against the principles of the religion. President of the group spoke at a press conference held recently in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Aide reports.
It is less than 2 months to the general election, and the need to sensitize ahead of the polls to ensure a smooth and peaceful exercise has become major concern to some interest groups.
We have some group of Muslims.
At this press conference organized by the Muslim Scholars Association of Nigeria, the group frowned at what it described as the misunderstanding of the principles of Islam about political participation. They say that Islam is not against democracy as preached by some groups, asking Muslim faithful to exercise their franchise as it is part of their civic responsibility to the country.
We outrightly condemn some Muslim groups campaigning that Muslims should not carry out their civic responsibility of going out to vote candidate of their choice. We hereby align and vote for candidates that can guarantee their fundamental human rights without discrimination and for the good governance of the country.
The groups assured Nigerians that it would continue to sensitize its members across various states and communities to ensure that they are well informed about the advantages of political participation.
We have been doing house-to-house dawah and group-to-group dawah to reach out to these people. That is a misunderstanding of Islamic tenets. For somebody to say participation in democracy, either presenting yourself forward to be voted for